Let's talk about the Joint Commission and the role a Joint Commission plays in reviewing a hospital's performance.
Thank you.
Mr. Hunter.
Good afternoon, Mr. Bork. Good afternoon, Mr. Hunter.
I thought you said you didn't have to report.
I don't know, sir. You're not
listening.
Perhaps I'm not being clear today. I do not have access to the 2018 report.
That sound was Hunter's soul leaving his body.
I thought I buried this Dracula several years ago.
But you have an opinion to a reasonable management probability that the failure of the medical executive committee to address this caused or contributed to the harm of Mike Walski.
Objections beyond scope.
You can answer.
Thank you. I do believe that this failure on the part of the governing body contributed.
And this particular individual happens to also be remarkably charismatic and have phenomenal hair to combine with my, I guess, phenomenal beard.
At 2, Rob, you're going to jump on the good hair stuff too? Really?
Dude, why not? I mean, I can't keep this thing in order.
Thank you for that. And speaking of looking fabulous, coming to the program right now, Dr. Joe Corcoran, who we have often labeled here as Dr. Good Hair. How are you?
I'm great. Hey, advocates. Good to see you again. Different day, different time, but thank you all for joining on fairly short notice. Just want to tell you, there's some kind of sinister stuff taking place right now. It is affecting me personally. It is work related, and it's kind of a crazy story. I am not allowed to talk about it yet. But trust me, when I am allowed to talk about it, there will be lots to talk about. So the reason I mention it, and I don't mean to just tease it and leave it at that, but the reason I mention it is because just like this week, there will be times when this sideshow issue, which again is hitting very, very close to home for me, it will throw off our schedule. And, I've tried to maintain a Monday, Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern cadence since we launched the show in the beginning of December. May need to, from time to time, be flexible to accommodate other things that are timely, urgent, necessary. So just wanted to give you that heads up. And again, I apologize for talking about something that I can't really talk about, but wanted to give you the frame of reference. I promise you, as soon as I'm allowed to discuss it, I'll bring it to this family because listen, honestly, I could use your support in it. So, but until then, thank you for your flexibility. Thank you so much for joining today. I am. I guess I should be embarrassed. I must have been asleep at the wheel. There was a non-evidentiary hearing yesterday. I believe it was a case management hearing, and I knew nothing about it. And I know that members of the audience knew about it. Becky Siebert left a comment in the comments section on, I believe, the last live stream we did last week. And in my reply to Becky, I said, hey, what am I missing? I don't know anything about April 22nd. And unfortunately, I guess Becky didn't see my reply, and so I didn't get an update about it. And I would encourage you, if you leave a comment, I will tell you what my habit is. I try to, when I wake up in the morning, I try to look at all the comments from the last live stream, and I generally will at least give a thumbs up to almost all comments. Some, especially those who wished us, me and the gregarious Greek goddess Patty, happy anniversary, or Klonia Pola. Thank you for that. I frequently will add a heart, but I also try to respond and offer a reply, answer your questions. So I do encourage you to go back and, if there is a reply, we can start a dialogue. And if you ever want to communicate with me, if you go down into the description of the program, the email address is there. It's askcmo.drjoe@gmail. I think, I'm pretty sure. askcmo.drjoe@gmail. It's in the pre-show notes, but you're always welcome to fill me in, to make a comment, to make me aware of something. There are things happening all over that this group wants to know about. I saw that Shark is asking about the Kushner family, and this close to home situation does not involve the Kushners. It actually involves the Corcorans. So no, that's not it. But if you ever want to send anything to me, thank you very much, Gothic Brina, for putting the email in, and thank you for Sally for scrolling it now. But if you ever want to message me, I check that email about every day. Try to take weekends off and be a husband, be a dad. But anyway, I just wanted to let you guys know. So yeah, I was asleep at the wheel, and I completely missed that there was a hearing yesterday. And on its face, it probably shaped up to be a boring meeting, more of a calendar management meeting than anything else. But I got a text message from our dear friend Yoli, the ever-loving spouse of Juror 1, Paul, and she made a comment about the hearing. And I was like, oh, thank God you watched. And she was able to kind of connect a lot of dots for me, fill me in a lot. And at the end of the conversation, I asked her, I said, if you're available tomorrow, can you come in and tell the rest of the audience? Can you tell the other advocates what happened? And graciously, not only is Yoli joining us, but her colorful husband, Paul, with yet another lively shirt on, giving us the paper wave. Thank you so much. The royal wave. Welcome, Yoli and Paul. Welcome back. It's great to see you guys again.
Greetings.
Good afternoon.
How has life been for the two of you?
Boring. We don't do much.
Yeah. I can tell. Oh,
that's one of our family arguments.
Yells at one another.
No,
would you care to explain this photograph?
Getaway.
Would you care to explain this photograph?
Go ahead.
We went for a little staycation here at Universal Adventures Island or stuff like that, and we did a little picture thing that they have, a little package, and it was kind of neat. They dress you up in a robe of your chosen house, Slytherin or whatever the other ones are, and we took some pictures on a green screen, and they put little backings to it, so we had fun with zapping each other, pretending, and stuff like that. So yeah, we had a blast, and we gained like about 10 pounds each, because they have something there called, what is it, butter beer, dear?
Yes.
It's kind of like
butter beer.
Butter. It's like
Butterscotch.
It's like butterscotch hot chocolate, so to speak, with a real butterscotch white foam on the top, and you could have it hot, iced, or frozen.
Oh
And
my
the only
goodness.
place to get it is in like Adventure Island area, not any
No kidding.
so lines all the time. And we like OD'd on the stuff. It was like, holy cow, this is great. But
so full disclosure to the audience, Paul and Yoli and I were in the green room together before we went live, and I just said that the two of them have so damn much fun together as a couple.
We try.
Really makes a lot of us jealous, for sure. And I will admit out loud before everybody who's watching that as many times as I've been to the Orlando theme parks, because living in Tampa, it's only an hour and a half away each way. Soon as the kids got old enough to go on their own, I signed off. I feel like I did my time. I'm glad that my friends can still enjoy the parks.
That's right.
mm-hmm. Well, we haven't been to parks, since our kids grew up. Even when they were growing up, we kind of dragged them along because, we wanted to have fun. We didn't care if they did or not. We did. But no, we finally, after several years, decided we'd like to make it back to Disney World. We like Epcot the best, you know, and stuff like that.
I had never been to Universal, so this was my thing.
Understood.
And then
and Paul,
go ahead.
And I'm not sure if you can see the screens, but I put up one of the comments from Mother Pugger that Guy Fieri wishes that he had Paul's hair.
Yeah, I know it's looking a little raggedy. It's time to dye it white again and let it grow out. I do that in the spring. So maybe next time you see me, I'll have a different, I'll look white and weird instead of just weird.
So funny. Gothic Brina really sums it up. Paul and Yoli are big kids at heart.
Yes. Yes, we do enjoy having a lot of fun. Life is too short.
Amen to that. Hey, so Yoli, you made me laugh out loud yesterday, and when you were you brought up some very interesting points about the hearing yesterday, and so let me pull up. Actually, we don't have the announcement for the hearing yesterday, but it was a non-evidentiary hearing, was the way you described it, and I believe it was a case management hearing.
Yes,
and
sir.
there were only two items on the agenda. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and fill us in on those.
So the item number 1 was for sanctions. This basically was non-evidentiary, and it was to set a date. He told both parties to bring their calendars, and he was going to set a date for case management, for the sanctions, and for fees, motion for fees.
And he, of course, being Judge Hunter Carroll.
Yes, correct.
Right. And this was a virtual meeting, right? It was a WebEx or Zoom meeting, if I'm not mistaken.
He usually says if a meeting is an hour or less, you can participate by Zoom. If it's over an hour, you must report in person. So all the parties were there. We had Ethan Shapiro was there. He was the main guy that spoke for JHACH. Mr. Hunter was there. Ms. Carrells was there. Those were the 3 parties for JHACH.
Okay.
And then Nick and Greg and Mrs. Anderson were there for the plaintiffs. And it looks like Mrs. Anderson was home, and Nick and Greg were in their war room with a big map in their office.
Gotcha. And here is this was shared. This was on the docket of documents. Just confirming what you said. Apparently, it says that that Jack and Maya were not present. Just attorney only, represented by Anderson, and Whitney. Yeah. So terrific. And so, as I recall from our conversation yesterday, Yoli, the first topic was about attorney's fees. Is that correct?
No, the sanctions came first.
Oh, the sanctions came first. Okay.
That's correct.
Can you,
Yeah.
for those
Yeah,
of us
I'll-
who were asleep at the wheel and didn't know about it, can you fill us in on how that went?
Sure. So I took notes, so I might look at my notes, but basically, it was kind of interesting. The judge said, "Oh, I guess you guys didn't come to an agreement, meaning mediation." And then he goes, "Well, I hope we come to an agreement on some things today." So he started basically saying, "Okay, both parties have these motions for sanctions," and he wanted to know which ones were coming up, which ones wanted to be discussed. And there were quite a few of them. And he said, "Look, I'm going to give you guys 25 minutes, call each other and see if you can whittle it down so that we don't have to discuss all of these." So there was recess, 25 minutes. He comes back, and surprisingly, both parties says, "Judge, we have decided that we are going to withdraw some of these." And they started giving the judge which ones, but then they started to have a little bit of a disagreement. So Mrs. Carroll came on and said, "Oh, Judge, I don't think they have an agreement. Let's just go ahead and hear them all." And he said, "No, no, no. Let's go back." And he was like a father with his two children, got them to kind of go back slowly and go through them. And if you look at one of the dens, the defense withdrew all of their sanction motions, every one of them. And the plaintiffs withdrew everything except 3 that came after the court date. So that was amazing. So I think this was a very successful court case management, because some things got thrown out, and there's only 3 that are going to be discussed on the 1st of August.
And so the defense did not hold on to any of their motions for sanctions?
That's correct.
Wow. I did not know
There's
that.
only going to be 3 of the plaintiffs, and it is on the January 1st case. It does mention the 3.
Yeah, so
that's
here
it.
is,
That's correct. Yep.
yeah. So
that was a success, and even Greg Anderson said that was a miracle. That they were able to quickly agree as to, yes, it was amazing.
Well, hold on.
And so
a
after, yeah, go ahead, Paul.
second. Was this where they were almost, from what I remember, sitting here, where they were a bit like stubborn kids and were throwing their arms up in the air, so to speak? And then that's when the judge said, I'm going to step out. You guys handle it. Is it?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Pardon my error.
So that was the first part of the 30 minutes. And so they came to that agreement. The judge said, "Let's look at your calendars." And he gave each party dates. Shapiro picked 3 dates, and then Greg picked the 1 date. But although he's going to be in vacation mode, at least Whitney for sure will be there. Greg might be there by Zoom.
Gotcha. And but how do you, so what you're telling me is that both Team JHACH and Team Maya went into the meeting with really 2 buckets full of motions for sanctions. Team JHACH poured out their entire bucket, and Team Maya whittled it down to just 3, and they got there on their own?
Yes, sir. With the help of the amazing Judge Carroll.
How so? How did Judge Carroll help them get there?
I think he knows these parties really well after spending so many weeks with them. He is able to get them to rein them in. When he sees them starting to disagree, he's able to say, let's go back. Let's see what we started with. Even so that on the second part, when they were talking about fees, Greg several times told the judge, "Can you be the mediator for that?" And he said, "Absolutely not. I do not want to have anything to do with that." but it's just to show. And he even said, I can make you guys agree on stuff.
Interesting.
So it was twice it was asked if he could mediate for them. And he's like, no, I can send someone, but no. So,
You know, yeah, I thought it was curious, but the more you've talked about it, the more accurate I think it is. You started describing yesterday's session by describing Judge Carroll as a parent. And it sounds like it was very much how he approached the conversation yesterday. Am I wrong?
that you're correct. That's exactly what it felt like. And it was, when you watch the trial every single day, it's like your family, even the bad players, It was nice to see them all in their dynamic, how they work with each other.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what it's almost like the defense and the plaintiffs were like two siblings that stay in the same bedroom, and the toys were all over the floor. And Judge Carroll is the father, and he kind of like, okay, two kids, it's like everyone was, or the two parties didn't want to play together. And it was like, nope, this isn't going to work, stuff like that. And then Judge Carroll, in his intelligent ways, kind of calms them down and says, okay, well, we need to get through this. And I want to get this happening. We just can't let it go. And he's like, you guys talk amongst yourselves. I'm going to leave the room, or, go away. And when I come back, let me know what you've gotten up to. And after that kind of ultimatum and having the two siblings have to work together, then it was like, okay, well, I'll pick up the Legos if you pick up the Lincoln Logs. Okay, but those weren't all mine. But you played with them. Okay, and they worked together. And so they basically came in with all kinds of gripes and were clashing. They came up with, okay, well, these are the biggies that we're going to just handle. Everything else, let's just forget about. Here are these things.
I do want to add that it wasn't that everybody was very cordial. There wasn't any. I felt a successful meeting, and everybody was nice. They were playing nice. There wasn't any of. Yeah, it was pretty fresh, and there wasn't. And I think what Marta C said is pretty much, that the defense was ready to say, hey, they wanted everything dropped, but they finally agreed, the plaintiffs, to do the 3. So everybody, I felt that Ethan was, actually trying to do some of this stuff and agree on things.
That's encouraging.
Yeah, I really was surprised. I think so was Greg. I haven't spoken to Greg. I don't know if you did to get what he felt, but I think having a lot of these dropped was a big win for the plaintiffs.
Yeah. It's interesting that Marta C's observation here, and I'm assuming, for purposes of discussion in this comment, that Marta C actually was one of the others who was aware of the hearing and dialed into it. I know that it was a tactical decision to drop many of the sanctions. The ones that stayed in were probably the most aggressive, most damaging, most...
Correct. So the 3, I basically read through them. 2 of them have to do, the first one has to do with the IJ with witness Anderson. The second one is also IJ related. The third one has to do with the bar referral. Yeah.
And 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 one of them, I can't remember. So I had, as I shared with the audience last week, I had lunch with Greg and Nick after the mediation blew up on Monday afternoon last week, and ended 2.5 days ahead of schedule. And they talked about that I believe it's the bar complaint is also, that also goes back and includes the statement that Deborah Salisbury made, actually prior to your interview, Paul. And she made the comment, she made the statements about how blatantly false the defense allegations were, that you knew her and she represented the family, right, and blah blah blah. So that to me was one of the most powerful and, if I may, damning statements that I saw come up during this very, very, very long process. Because again, she was never called as a witness. She certainly played an important role in the Kowalskis' journey to get their day in court, but it was all really focused on the dependency court hearings, and just the way that they, in her opinion, misrepresented your relationship with her, which was effectively zero.
Right.
So anyway, it'll be interesting to see. So what are they going to do with the sanctions? They haven't addressed them, but they will at the August 1st hearing.
Correct.
Is that okay?
So each party asked for 2 hours. So
Okay.
he is giving them, I think it's a 1:30 afternoon hearing, and they each have 2 hours to address the 3 motions. So that's
Okay.
what's going to happen on the 1st.
Okay. And there's several questions being raised in the comments about, where was Howard Hunter? What was he doing during the earlier document did show that he was participating in yesterday's hearing, but you said that he took very much a backseat to Mr. Shapiro?
Yeah. Now I'm also working while I'm listening to this, so I don't catch every sentence, but I did not hear him speak at all. So he was, as far as I'm concerned, he didn't really say anything. Ethan was the one that basically took the helm of the meeting, and he's the one that the judge continuously asked questions to, and it was him and Greg that basically took the helm.
Interesting.
So like I said, this meeting was not to discuss it. It was just let's decide which motions we want to decide on and do those on, pick a date, and that's going to be the 1st.
Yeah. Interesting. So,
and then the second part was the fees. And the way that the judge basically says, he says, look, this is the way I operate. This was my trial, and I know the parties, and I don't like to leave loose ends, and I want to close the sanctions, and I want to close the attorney fees. And he goes, that's the way I like to operate, but I listen that you guys don't want that. And so he says, who wants to start first? And so was Greg. And Greg says, look, I don't want to put so much resource and strain on the court to try to do all these fees when this is on appeal and who knows what's going to happen. And why waste our resources, the court resources, going through another trial basically for nothing. So he asked then Shapiro, and Shapiro totally agrees. He says, Your Honor, I totally agree. I have experience with this. Let's wait till after appeals and take care of this. And the judge basically says, well, what if I get hit by a Mack truck? He's like, I and it's going to be 2 to 5 years down the road. I don't want to deal with it then. I want to deal with it now. It's fresh, and that's the way I operate. He says, you guys are going to have to convince me why I don't want to do this. So basically, both said the same thing, that it was too much time. There's a lot of privileged information. There's a lot of, Greg mentioned he doesn't want to have to open his books for the world to see right now. But then he mentioned, well, if we agree on something like hours, and an hourly rate, and it's just math, maybe we can kind of do something like that. So then the judge basically said, can the parties talk to each other and decide maybe on doing something like, okay, so much hours for my time from such a date to such a date, and we can at least put some of this to rest. So there's nothing set in stone on that. The judge hasn't really ruled on that, but he's asking the parties to speak to each other, and maybe they can come up with something on fees.
Wow.
And then Mrs. Anderson spoke up and said, I have an idea. She calls Greg on the phone. He tells the judge, very interesting idea. What if when the judge tells us you can have fees on from certain date to certain date, why don't we just have whatever JHACH paid the defense, we'll take that fee. So that's very interesting.
That's very interesting.
And he
That
said it
seems
was a very
reasonable.
novel idea, very different. So, and
Novel, but did he support it?
Ethan said he would bring it to his clients and see what they say. That he would do that, and that he would talk to Greg and see if they can come up with something.
I mean, typically when you have a retained relationship, right? And again, it's my understanding, and again, this is just what I've heard through the process of the trial. From my understanding, Johns Hopkins has been a client of that firm for many, many years, like more than a dozen. Typically, you work at a discounted rate, but I'm sure it's still substantial, more than most of us make in an hour. That's a really, really intriguing idea that Jennifer Anderson came up with. Very smart, very, very intriguing.
And
I hope that they can settle that.
Yeah, at least part of it. At least the fee part. There's the fee part, and then there's the costs, actual costs. Now that's a much more difficult and much more time-consuming part. But they wanted to at least do some of it. Ethan is basically saying it's all or nothing. Let's wait till after appeals. I really don't want to piecemeal this. But he did agree to possibly at least discuss it. The judge says, well, I'm not putting it to rest. He's not choosing a date to discuss it yet. What I like to do when I get up in the morning is always check the clerk of court, because you never know when a document pops up. So it's something I do every single day.
Lauren Elizabeth is asking for the second time. Was Shapiro using his ASMR voice yesterday?
I have to say he seemed very pleasant yesterday.
Excellent. Good. Well, maybe he's relaxed after the family cruise, right?
Yes.
The and we had a little bit of a laugh yesterday about the comment about Judge Carroll being concerned about being hit by a Mack truck.
There was a little levity there. Yes.
Yeah, everybody kind of chuckled. And even Greg mentioned, I sure hope all of us are still around 5 years. He prays everybody will stay healthy. But I thought that was, well, what if I get hit by a Mack truck? And I was like, oh my goodness, he didn't just say that.
Well, I hope everybody stays healthy. I hope to God we're not still, going through the process of this trial. I hope that they can
find a
solution.
That the judge also mentioned was, okay, you're going to go through the appeal, and then I guess there's a cross appeal, which I don't know anything about law, but Greg did say they would not cross appeal, whatever that means, and that he hoped it'd be over way before 5 years.
Wow.
He's hoping for settlement. He's still hoping that there will be a settlement.
Yeah, Nanny Goat, I have to agree with you. I love Judge Carroll's sense of humor. Listen, I've said it multiple times on this, on these broadcasts, that I just think that Judge Carroll's judicial temperament has been extraordinary. I just think that he's done such a magnificent job of managing some big egos, some big emotional issues, a very emotional case. I mean, you know, you're talking about the loss of a mom, and you're talking about, two very young kids. I think, Maya had just turned 11, and Kyle was probably still 8 years old, losing their mom. So very, very emotional case, but I think he did a remarkable job of keeping it on track, fact-based. And one of the things that I really admired about him was, there were times when he showed demonstrably that he was pissed off, right? When he said, Mr. Hunter, don't look at me that way. That was not subtle, right? But rather than blow his top, he went into a 5-minute break and came back zen-like, right? He came back in a very different mood, which again, I just, that kind of self-control is on that kind of a platform was really admirable, in my opinion.
Another funny moment was when they were trying to figure out what date to meet, and Ethan Shapiro had already picked the date, and so Greg starts to say, okay, I can do it on this date, and immediately Jen jumps up, no, honey, we can't this is the day we're doing this and this. So then the judge says, Mrs. Anderson, what is a good time for your husband? It was like, when is a good time for him to come out and play? And it was funny. Everybody started laughing. The way
like they were setting up a play date.
Yeah, like, okay, when can he come?
That's funny.
So everybody was laughing. It was funny.
Yeah. Well, anything else? So actually, I guess the big something to come out of it is that they agreed to another date. They will be getting together in the afternoon of August 1st, and if memory serves, that's a Thursday, and that will be in person in the Sarasota courthouse. The trial took place at the county's South Courthouse, which is in Venice, which is closer to the Kowalski's home. The interview that Paul was subjected to on the 3rd of January, that took place in the Sarasota courthouse. And so it looks like this evidentiary hearing on August the 1st will be in that same, I think it's called the Judge Silvertooth Judicial Center.
Which is actually that is Judge Carroll's home court.
Yeah. And so that will take place, but he has set aside, I want to say 4 hours for that.
1:30 to, I guess, 4:30. Yeah.
And then, what's that, Paul?
2 hours per side.
Gotcha. And then, since it is more than an hour, that will be an in-person.
Correct. He said at least
hearing.
one party from each must be there in person. So Nick Whitney for sure, because he's not going to be out of state. And I am assuming it'll be Ethan Shapiro, at least. Got it.
So did it strike you? Did it cause you to think? Well, what was your reaction to see Ethan Shapiro really running the show yesterday? Because I very much saw Howard running the show during the trial. Is there? Is there anything really there to read into?
I believe it was Lawyer, or it might have been one of the law tubers mentioned that they believe that this would have been Hunter's last case, that he was perhaps thinking, they were going to win and this was going to be his last case. And it didn't turn out to be. So I think he wanted to retire. And I think he's now having to stick around because obviously it's not over. But I really think he was going to retire. So I don't think it looked like he was not well. He might have had his back surgery after, and he was recovering at home. It looked like he was at home.
Oh, okay. Well, we certainly hope that he's well. I mean, listen, there are certainly sides in this, but nobody needs to be wished ill, right? So
At the
we
end of the
certainly
day,
hope that he is
At
well
the end of the day, we're all just people, you know?
and doing their jobs, right?
Yep,
Doing their jobs.
absolutely.
You know, one of the things, I can't remember the precise phrase, but I know that one of the things that is drilled into lawyers from the early days of law school is that, you know, every client is should be given a vigorous representation, right? And you've got to admit both sides were vigorous in the representation of their clients. So and yeah, it got a little heated from time to time, but still, you want everybody to be healthy and in a good place. So Michaela Haney, will it be live streamed on August 1st? I would think yes, but TBD. I will, as we get closer, I've already set a pop-up reminder for 2 weeks prior to the trial. I will work with Scott at Recovery Addict.
I was going to say, Scott, yes, let him know.
Yeah, he will. He is usually the most on top of it to make sure that if it can be live streamed, it will be live streamed. And bring it. So, Michaela, we will do our best to bring it to you so that you can be a part of it. And speaking of Scott, I just want to point out that, let me see, between now and Thursday night, the interest will top $5 million. So that the total owed is over 213 million now. Pretty remarkable. Pretty remarkable. And thank you
That's
again to
looking
Scott.
like the U.S. national debt clock, the way it's spinning.
Right. Yeah, I think it's $52,000 a day. But thank you to Scott and his son, Recovery Addict and Recovery Addict Jr., for putting this together. And if you ever want to check in on it, it's on True North Media, the YouTube channel for True North Media, which is Recovery Addict's secondary channel. You can always check in and see how much interest is being accrued. But I think this is one of the most remarkable tools out there. And you're right, Paul. As soon as I saw it, I thought, oh my gosh, this looks exactly like the national debt clock, doesn't it? Except there's a couple of zeros missing, I guess, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So, Yoli, anything more that we need or that we should know about yesterday's hearing?
I was more surprised that I really thought it was going to be very dry and, you know, just set dates. But I was pleasantly surprised that some things got accomplished and that it was nice to see all the parties there and interacting. So I'm glad I attended. I almost wasn't going to. So.
Yeah. Well, again, if anybody ever knows or hears that something pops up like this, just please send me a message.
I will be letting you know.
Shoot me an email. Thank you, Yoli. Thank you so much.
Because I check daily to see if anything else has come through.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you were watching yesterday, and thank you so much for recapping for us today. While I've got you, other than your showmanship in Harry Potter world, how have you guys been? Everything good?
Oh, good. Here, the picture behind Yoli in her office. See what's right about there?
Is that a hippo?
The hippo playing poker with a lot of other animals.
Is that a Florida gator next to the hippo?
Oh, yeah.
See, Yoli, you and I are in the game together.
And then, and then
polar bear
Paul
and a
got me
lion.
that photo for my office when I moved into the office. So
I love it. I love it.
And I almost want to turn my computer so you could see the TV that I was watching while I was working in my office. So I'm going to try so you can kind of see my office. Okay. Keep going. Keep going.
Oh, my goodness.
There it is.
Oh, wow.
This is our command center.
Nice, nice. And I see the hard hat in case the ceiling tiles start to fall.
It's kind of like if you watch Smallville, the Superman thing. This is called Watchtower.
I love it. I love it. So Yoli, what's the poster over Paul's shoulder? The big show. What's that?
It's a circus from, it had Esther Williams in it from the 50s, I believe.
Oh, it's the movie poster.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic.
And
Now-
then there's a monkey picture. Let me see. Hold on. See if you can bring it.
Which way?
Follow My Dreams. This one.
Which one?
I don't know if you can see that, but it says, "Follow your dreams."
I
The
love it.
monkey. Yeah. I try to keep a happy off.
And for those in the audience who have not met you, you have a history with the circus. Would you care to expound on that?
My daughter was a high wire walker, and we traveled all over the United States.
That's a high wire walker, not a street walker.
Thank you, Paul.
Got to clarify that for the Redditors.
We traveled for 3 years, went to Hong Kong, Canada, everywhere. So that's
Wow.
and I did all the administration. She did the actual circusing.
Outstanding.
So,
It did sound like a highway walker. Do not egg him on, Curviel. That's so funny. So, what Top Mark Media, Judy Henderson, thank you. The Recovery Addicts backup YouTube channel is called Top Mark Media. I got the name wrong earlier. Top Mark Media. That's where you can find this work of art anytime. You can check in around the clock and see what the total is up to. But that's at Top Mark Media. Thank you again, Judy Henderson. So, yeah, you guys were put through the mill. Paul, listen, you are known throughout the LawTube universe as Juror 1. You are known throughout the Reddit universe as Juror 1. Until we brought you on here, I called you Juror 1 until we had a chance to meet, right? And Yoli, you were reduced to just being HippoLover, and they made some really. By the way, I love that. I love that shirt, but I also love how on the thumbnail that Sally, the incredible graphic artist from the UK who does all of my thumbnails, she found that photograph of the two of you, and it's almost like you complete each other. It's like the body of the hippo is on Paul's shirt and the head of the hippo is on yours, and it's seamless. Again, you guys do everything together. You're like such a cool couple. But what I'm saying is that your lives were just hung out for all the world to see. You were really put on a stage that, at the end of the day, the evidence, the testimony, really showed that there was no reason for that. And there's been a lot of conversation in the comments and on other channels about you guys getting raked over the coals and that not being fair. Any thought about trying to fight back?
Well, part of me has I'd love to be able, to hire, I don't know, O.J. Simpson's old attorney and get something done, or Roy Black, I think his name was, over here in Miami. But, that passes. In other words, I call him the Shapiro team because his name was easier to remember. They just, fought, to my opinion, low down and dirty, but nothing stuck because there's nothing to get stuck or stick.
Yeah.
So just let it all go. And, because it didn't affect us, we're happy, do our things. Heck, today I was at Home Depot and I'm walking by and I see a Bougainvillea because I'm looking for a California gold Bougainvillea.
Oh,
and right in front of me
you don't
is a
see that much.
butterfly. So I stood there, and people are looking at me, what I'm doing, my phone out, waiting for the butterfly. Every so often, it would open its wings, and it was like a plain monarch butterfly. But
Yeah.
people are walking by, looking at me. And I see the butterfly. I'm trying, and I finally, after a couple of photos, got the butterfly close up with its. To me, that made my day, and that's how I am. Yes, I do on my phone, but
Like life is too short, and I don't feel like I want our lives thrown out there. And
don't want more.
This is all about Maya and what they went through. It's nothing compared to what it really isn't, and there's no reason for us to even go there.
Yeah.
Oh, he's got a picture.
There you go. Oh, beautiful. It looks like a sketch. Wow. Beautiful.
But yeah, I sat and people are just like looking at me like, oy vey. Kids, let's get by this guy before he does something. He's weird. But yeah.
So the answer is no. We have no desire. I know one of the sanctions that were dropped had to do with him, and it basically says we would have to take it up, and we have no desire to do so.
Right. In other words, nothing became of it, so we've moved on. In other words, do our vacations.
We're going on a cruise in July for his 60th.
My 16th birthday.
For the 44th time.
We're going on a Margaritaville cruise.
Oh, very cool. The one out of Tampa.
Yes. Is it? Yep.
Nice. Congratulations.
The ship is starting in June. It's like one of their newly refurbished ships. So.
That's right. That should be fun. Yes. And when is your birthday, Paul?
Looking forward to it.
July 14th.
Outstanding. We will have to circle that date and make sure that we celebrate for you, if not with you.
But yes, I think if anything, this was a blessing. It's brought us to know you, to know the advocates, to know so many people that are just good people that want to do good in the world.
Yeah.
And if I always try to look at what's good in whatever negative there is. And I'm thankful that we had this experience.
Did we mention we met somebody at Universal?
Oh, yes. Tell them.
We're going through Universal looking like we do. I think we were even
casting laser beams and spells on one another.
We were in a gift shop.
And we're just in a gift shop and looking at all the T-shirts and stuff. I want to buy everything. And then Yoli saying, nah. Oh, look at this.
And I noticed someone saying Paul, but I didn't think it was my Paul.
Yeah.
And we look over and it's a lady that says, "Are you juror number 1?"
So you keep saying, Paul? Yeah. And I felt like saying, are you from the IRS? Or no. Who wants to know? No. And look, and she's probably in her 30s or late 30s.
From
she has
South Carolina.
She's in a
no
and she's from South Carolina. We found out, and she's saying, "Juror number 1." And I said, yeah. And then HippoLover, and it turns out she knew us because she was following the Maya Kowalski trial, and is following on your channel and Scott's and lawyer. She's just following everyone, and it was strange that. Of all places, here we are in Universal, Orlando, and someone recognizes us. So that was a nice little conversation, but it's a small world kind of thing.
Well, and I want to acknowledge Dog Lover's comment, because I think Dog Lover speaks for a lot of us. Yes, this is about Maya, but we really appreciate what you and the other jurors did. And Paul, I want to let you know that somebody that you introduced me to, Michael, Juror 17, is in the audience today. And Michael, thank you for all that you've done. And I would love to love to see you again with Paul and Yoli. I've just got to get back down to Sarasota, and Somebody had asked earlier the name of our restaurant, and of course, most in the audience know about it. But it is the Breakfast Company. It's two in Sarasota and one in Bradenton. But
Fabulous place.
You got to love cinnamon rolls, though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, what you and Michael and the other jurors and alternates did was truly remarkable. This was not a simple case. These were not easy issues, but I think you went through 50 something notepads. I don't know. Did anybody ever count up how many questions the jury submitted through?
I don't think I've heard
Judge Carroll
figure on that.
I think it would be interesting to know that. Somebody somewhere has to have, but it's really remarkable, how invested each of the jurors and the alternates were. But you and Michael and 4 others saw it through to the end. But you guys really did remarkable work. Thank you. I love this.
Yeah.
Ergo
Yes.
Iron Fist. Paul needs the T-shirt that says, "My mind thinks I'm 12. My body thinks my mind is an idiot."
That he does. We had a
Oh,
blast.
goodness.
We were like 2 kids at Universal. We really enjoyed it.
Well, I going back, Yoli, to your comment about this being about Maya and about just enjoying your lives and all the conversation that we've had about, the 2 of you at, and just the way that you guys really do act like kids. You've been together, check your tattoo, Paul. You've been together since 2016, so you've been together 8 years as a couple, and you guys you act like you're dating. And I love that despite all the grief that you were put through for doing your assignment, right? For being a juror, for asking questions, for paying attention, for challenging what you heard from both the plaintiff side and the defense side. You guys were both put through a hell of a grind. And I am so impressed and proud of you that you can rise above that and say, you know what? I think you said life's too short, and you just want to continue to enjoy the life that's ahead, not the life that's behind. So I applaud you. That's a very, very, very grown-up attitude. And honestly, I don't know if I'm deep enough to have gotten there myself, but I'm so glad to know 2 people that can get there. And congratulations on your emotional maturity.
It's like at this point, our knowledge is built, and by the time we met each other, there's like nothing. I mean, unless it's some sort of life, illness, or changing, dangerous decision, there's nothing that Yoli, I could say to her that she would decide, even if I would rather do something else or, go a different route to get to Orlando. I'd go 75. She likes going up 19 and across 62 and, 27. I'm in the car with her and we're happy driving. So, and we're seeing a difference. In other words, there's maybe when I was 20, it's like, no, I want to get there now, 75, and then I can do 85, and no,
right.
It's not a biggie.
Yeah.
And when you give a little, well, then she gives a little. I know there's stuff that I do that drives her buggy, I'm sure, but what do you agree? What are you nodding for? Wait a second. Oh, we've got to go. I have something to discuss here. No. It's like, okay, we're together, and every night we always, tell each other our days and that we love each other and have our good night kiss, and That's it. We always iron things out, and nothing, nothing's that big that it should put a rift between us.
And even though
or
we've
anybody.
been married 6 years, we've been together 12. We met in July of 2012.
But I think you've been married 8 years now, haven't you?
Yes. I mean, yes, 8 years.
Hello.
See, I'm getting a tattoo so I can remember when you guys were married.
See, that's why I can't be mad at him.
That was honestly, that was my favorite part of your interview in January, Paul, was when you went into panic mode trying to roll up your sleeve, but you had a long sleeve shirt and a jacket on. It's like, oh damn, I can't get to my tattoo.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Judge Carroll. Throw me under that bus.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, Judge Carroll, do you do divorces too? Well, guys, I am so glad that, as you said earlier, Yoli, this trial was, I had never heard of a little bit more than a year ago, I had never heard of the Kowalskis. I didn't know who Judge Carroll was. I'd never met Greg Anderson or Nick Whitney or Jennifer Anderson or anybody else. And it's really kind of neat when you look at the cast of characters that have come together and really become friends.
Yes.
Because of this tragedy in the Kowalski family, and really kind of just being a part of Maya, as she said after the verdict was read, I feel like I finally was heard, and giving Maya that opportunity to be heard after 7+ years. It was a really remarkable event in many of our lives, and just to see that. On a Tuesday afternoon, we have almost 500 people dialed into this. The last conversation about this, we got 7,000 views. Just and on the bigger channels like Recovery Addict, like Megan Fox, like Law and Lumber, like Melanie Little, the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who really feel like they are a part of the Kowalskis family journey. It was not anything that I had on my bingo card. I will tell you that. It was really life-changing though. And again, for this community to come together. I think Gothic Brino was talking with somebody else in the comments earlier about just this community is different, and it's wonderful. And I always talk about we are here because we want to make this world not as good but better than it was given to us. And candidly, that's not how everybody thinks, right? But I just love that I'm being given the opportunity to be a part of this community with all of you, and who do agree. Kate P, it's a great way to spend a Tuesday night with all the advocates, right? And Dr. Joe, thank you, Kate P. It's a special opportunity, and I applaud you guys for being a part of it, and I applaud you guys for recognizing it, and I'm grateful that you were available and willing to spend an hour with us today to bring us up to speed, because yours truly was asleep at the switch and didn't even realize the hearing was taking
I
place.
won't let that happen again. I'll keep you on your toes.
Well, it's not your job, but I do appreciate the help. God knows I could use it. So thank you so much. Paul, Yoli, it's always a pleasure to see you guys, and I do hope that we can get together at the Breakfast Company soon.
Absolutely.
I am trying my best to spend more time in Sarasota, but like I said, there's some stuff going on. We'll get that straightened out, but we'll get together soon down there. Okay, guys?
Well, maybe one day we'll meet you at a
Race game.
A Rays game. Well, although is there they still, it's a hockey, there's a Rays game. Although We'll be up in the $20 nosebleed sections because you probably sit behind home plate type thing.
Actually, a friend of mine, after it took me 15 years to get into his ticket group, but his account number is 8. He was
Holy
the
doodle.
eighth
pretty cool.
guy to sign up for season tickets for the Tampa Bay Devil Rays, right? When they were terrible. Yeah. And he showed up every game. And then as he's gotten older and his kids have gotten older, he's let some other folks have a share. So I actually get to go to about a dozen games. And what's really cool about it, and I'm not bragging, I'm just happy that I can actually rest my elbows on the Rays dugout. So we've got great seats. And I will tell you that when my son, who's now in college, when we first moved to Tampa 10 years ago, he was 7 years old, and taking him to a game, he never once came home without at least a game ball. He has batting gloves upstairs in his room right now. He has batting gloves from Evan Longoria and David DeJesus. And the old pitching coach under Joe Madden used to give him the lineup cards, which now sell on MLB.com for hundreds of dollars. So that dude has a whole memorabilia wall up there from the Rays games. You know, I was in my late 50s going to the games, and I never got any of that. But, you know, we try to raise our kids, give our kids more opportunity than we were given, right?
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
I just want to be the GJ Kitty mascot.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
I love it. All right, guys. Hey, thank you so much. It's great to see you. I look forward to sharing a Greek salad and a cinnamon roll with you soon. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Yoli, thank you,
everyone.
boss, for letting.
Good night.
Good to see you guys. Take care. Paul and Yoli Langell. What a great couple. They are such an inspiration. I mean, honestly, you heard Yoli say they've been together for 12 years, and, you look at what they do in their spare time. I mean, who acts like this at their age, right? I mean, they are teenagers. Look at them. They are flipping teenagers, and they are just living a great life together. And I will tell you, by talking to each of them one-on-one, they each feel so fortunate to have found one another later in life. Obviously not a first marriage for either. But they just fit each other, and let's face it, Paul, hope you're not listening, former law enforcement officer, got to watch what I say. Some might describe him as a little quirky, with the loud shirts and the spiky hair, the Guy Fieri jealousy thing going on. But they fit together so well, and it's such a joy to see. Melissa F sums it up beautifully. Oops, sorry. As a single woman, they really make me want my own Paul. Yeah, I get it, Melissa. It's they're just and there are plenty of men out there who would love to just find somebody like Yoli that, the way she looks at Paul. They're just teenagers. That's all they are. They're just teenagers with experience. I can't remember who made that comment earlier, but I thought that was brilliant. So, oh, Celestial Force A freaking men to that. Eccentric people make life much more interesting. They are fun. Oh, that's one of my favorite comments of the day, for sure. Hey, so folks, thank you again for joining today. We will not be having a program on Thursday. It will either be Friday probably earlier in the day or on Saturday. Like I said, there's a lot going on. We'll talk about it soon enough. But it's always such a joy to get together, and especially when we can bring friends out like Paul and Yoli. And Yoli, again, if I didn't say it enough, thank you for sharing your insights, for taking notes, and just being a part of this, and bringing everybody up to speed. And I see that my brilliant and creative daughter has jumped in. If you want eccentric couples, the next episode should be on you and mommy. I love you, darling. Oh my. So aren't you supposed to be in class right now, sweetheart? Anyway, hey, so listen, I will, as soon as we define the topic and Sally puts up a thumbnail, I will post the logistics on our next live stream. I'm so grateful to have everybody here. I'm so grateful to have everybody pulling forward and, again, trying to make this world not as good, but better than it was left to us. I still am I would love to know more about the whole dynamic of Ethan Shapiro kind of taking the lead these days. He was clearly in the lead position for the abbreviated mediation last week. Yoli said it was very clear he was taking the lead at this point in yesterday's conference, non-evidentiary hearing. Love to know more about that dynamic. I am happy to see that Mr. Hunter is not gone. I am a little concerned to hear that he did not look well yesterday. I truly hope that he is well. LA, I'm assuming that you actually watched the program. I was disappointed that Judge Carroll had no fire in his belly and Hunter looked miserable. He kept pulling faces. LA, you're actually the second person to say that he made a lot of faces during the hearing, but again, sat mostly on the sidelines. So I'm wondering about what's going on with that dynamic. So I will, believe me, I will keep you posted if I hear anything. I've got, a lot of people like to keep me informed, and again, to this group, I'm sorry that I wasn't able to view the hearing itself. I do have a pop-up notice, a reminder message for 2 weeks prior to August 1st. But we will meet again many times between now and August 1st. Until then, please, 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 it's not selfish. Take care of yourself so that we can take care of others. I'll see you in a couple of days. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye. I will tell you without hesitation, I will tell you that I did not have this anywhere in my 5-year plan, Mr. Anderson.
That much I believe. Yep.
Well, thank you, everyone. Make sure that you take care of yourself so that we can be taking care of others. I'll look forward to seeing you in the coming days. Again, Kurt, Jules, thank you so much for making this a very dynamic conversation today. I'm grateful for your help.
Oh, kill me now. Please tell me this guy's doing some fraud and there's going to be like an insurance investigator or something.
So, Fred, thank you so much for being a part of this. Thank you for sharing your insights and your experience, and can't wait to bring you back, my friend.
I'm looking forward to it. You won't have to try hard. This was a lot of fun. So thank you, everybody.
You hear that? I get the rest of the day off from doctor's orders. That's what I'm hearing.
I will write that prescription anytime for you, sir. And, this will not be our last conversation, especially if you can get me Samantha Lawrence on the show.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll see you before the hearing next week. But thank you for the honor of being your first guest, Joe. And
you bet.
All the kind words. Appreciate it.
Please, let's make sure that we take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. Thank you so much.